Hi guys, welcome back again. We have been studying about the environmental studies. We are in second unit and some of its portion we have already discussed in our previous interaction. Today let us know about the mineral resources, food resources, energy resources and land resources. So today first let us talk about the mineral resources, then we'll go to the food resources. Now mineral resources, when you take up as a part of your study, you must know what are mineral resources, that is you are defining it, then what are the uses of the mineral resources, how we are exploiting these mineral resources, and what are the effects on the environment due to mining activity, that is when we extract these minerals from the earth's crust, that is the process called as mining, and because of that what are the environmental effects we are experiencing. So all this we are going to discuss in this segment. Now mineral resources can be the metals, non-metals and transitional elements that we extract from the earth's crust. Remember, these minerals have taken long time to form. Might be when the earth was cooling down and it was taking the shape maybe 4.6 billion years ago. In those conditions several kind of minerals might have been formed, and these are there now in the crust, earth's crust, which we are utilizing for our various purposes. Now mineral can also be defined as a structurally homologous substance having a definite chemical composition. So each mineral has got its own chemical composition. Now minerals are exhaustible and non-renewable resources. Non-renewable because once we lose them, we cannot get them back again. Now let's list some of the useful minerals which we are making use of, like aluminium, copper, gold, silver, manganese, platinum, nickel, iron, etc., to mention few. And other than that, we are also using some mineral stones like mica, marble, gemstones, and even the carbon in the form of charcoal, carbon in the form of the diamond. Like this, there are so many different minerals we are making use of. And now let us have a brief idea about some of the minerals and their uses. Aluminium, as we know, is more extensively used. Now also we are using the utensils made out of the aluminium. Aluminium is used in manufacture of the aircrafts, in electric cables, in the city grid. You might have seen the electric supply to the city, the huge towers and all, and the wires. We see that there much of the aluminium is used. Then in tubings of motor vehicles and other engines and machines, then in refrigerators, air conditioners, in solar panels and so on. There are so many uses of aluminium. And even the window frames in constructions, everywhere we see that the partition walls, we are using the aluminium. Gold. Gold is a precious element, and it is non-reactive, noble metal. So this has been used since time immemorial by human community as a part of ornamentation, or in the form of the coins. Gold coins were used in India during the period of Samudragupta. As you can see on the screen, there's one coin, gold coin, which has appeared there. Other than that, gold is used in dentistry, in ornaments, in making statues, in electronic and computer parts, etc. Then silver, another metal, which is also having a lot of implications, like in electronics, in jewelry making, silverwares, antibacterial purposes, because the silver ions or silver particles, they are antibacterial. So therefore in olden days the small babies, kids were fed with the silver spoon. And then in photography, in making alloys, etc., silver is being used. Next is a platinum. Platinum is also very, very precious element, a metal which is used in the catalytic converters to control the air pollution occurring due to the vehicles and motors. Then in laboratory equipment, especially in the dentistry equipments, platinum is used, and also in jewelry. Okay, now let us take up the next few elements, like here nickel. Nickel is a mineral which is used in making coins. We usually have the coins made up of nickel and copper alloy, or nickel and steel alloy, and all the coins which we are using, they are mainly having some amount of the nickel. Then carbon. Carbon is also one of the element which is also used, and carbon is there in all the living organisms, because biological molecules are made up of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. These elements make up our proteins, carbohydrates, and also it is part of our building structure in our body. Other than that, carbon in the form of the graphite is used in the pencils. It's used as electrodes. It's used in glass frames made up of carbon, which are more flexible and durable. And also carbon dating, some isotopes of carbons are there which have the radioactivity, and these are used in identifying the age of fossils. Then diamond is also a form of carbon. When carbon is heated in absence of oxygen under very high temperature and pressure, the carbon changes into a very precious shiny material which we call it as diamond, and it is used in the jewelry, highly priced. Then uranium, which is used in nuclear bombs, and even generating the nuclear energy we are using uranium. And then it is also used in cancer treatment to kill the cancer cells, and it's also used in one of the method of dating the rocks and the fossils of ancient animals, and that method is called as the radioactive time clock. As because its half-life is very, very high, it is in billions, so we can make use of the uranium to find out the age of fossils which have been preserved since billions of years in the Earth's crust. Then iron and steel, most extensively used metal it is. You can see on the screen there is the Eiffel Tower, which is made up of iron. In Paris it is. It's a huge structure, and in construction of the buildings, in bridges, making bridges, engine parts, in agricultural equipments, in making stainless utensils, railway lines, in scientific instruments, in machine parts, bodies of the vehicles. In so many ways the iron and steel are being used. In construction also it is used very extensively. So we have now just noted nickel, carbon, diamond, uranium, and iron and steel. Let's take up the next slide. So there are some other minerals for the stones which we are making use of, like mica. Mica, which is the mineral consisting of maximum the silicates, that is silicon dioxide, which is there in the sand, silicate, along with other minerals. So it makes up a very good material, especially for making paints, pigments, in thermal and electronic and electrical instruments, as because it is a good insulator of electricity and heat. And then in capacitor it is used, and also in making toothpaste and other cosmetics, mica is being used. What's important about mica we should know is that India is the largest source of mica. India has the largest deposits of the mica, and that is in one of the district of Jharkhand. The name of the district is Koderma. Now, marble is another mineral, and granite. As we know, these stones are used in flooring, in decorating the walls, in making the statues, in making even the furnitures. In so many ways, these marble and granite stones are being used, and these are being exported from India also. And we know that the Taj Mahal is completely made up of marble. Now let's take up some of the pictures over here which depict the use of the minerals. Like in making the aircrafts, aluminum is used, and in making the nuclear bombs, uranium is being used. And as we know, gold is extensively used in ornaments, especially in India. India is the largest consumer of the gold, and among the Indian states it's Kerala where gold is more extensively used. Its higher consumption is seen in Kerala. And then diamond, which is nothing but a form of carbon. Nickel, as I told you, in coins. Platinum in the instruments used in dentistry, and also in some ornaments. Now here this slide shows you the huge kind of structure in the river, which is nothing but the marble rock at Bheraghat near Jabalpur in India. So this is the resource of the marble stone. Now let us take up conservation of minerals. And as I told you, it is also non-renewable resource, so definitely we need to conserve it so that our future generation also must make use of it and know about it and benefit from it. So let us see how we can bring about the conservation, and only one solution for, or one statement usually is given for conservation of the non-renewable resources, like recycle, reuse and reduce. We have to reduce the use of those resources, reuse, don't throw them out, and then recycle the broken utensils or broken items made up of that particular metal or the mineral. These can be recycled. Once again, it can be made to melt, and new materials can be made out of that, so that we are reducing the pressure on mining. So in this way, recycling, reusing and reducing the use of the non-renewable resources like minerals will help us in conserving these minerals. Another way is substituting. For example, make use of the plastic or wooden doors in place of the metal doors. Then let us take up the effects of the mining on environment. Mining is the process by which we dug out the minerals or ores of the minerals from which those minerals are being extracted, metal ores from the earth. So we excavate it, we dig it out, and we remove a lot of the debris out, and large area is being utilized for that, and even the plants, the trees in that area are cut, and that's why the mining is not a healthy process if you look at for the environmental concern if you take up. So mining causes pollution of air, water and soil, as the dust produced will be too much, which is above the threshold limit. So that is crossing the total level of the threshold limit of the value of the dust in the air. So that is definitely going to affect the plants as well as the animals and humans. And these dust particles, they form the aerosol particles or suspended particulate matter in the air, and that when it settles down onto the leaves of the plants, they are affected, photosynthesis declines and plants may be killed, as well as these dust particles also harm the humans, causing the respiratory problems and damage to the lungs. Then other gaseous pollutants produced during mining like carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide and oxides of nitrogen, all these are having adverse effect on the human health. It may lead to the skin disorders, respiratory problems, etc. Now mining produces solid waste also, as I have told you, and that is going to pollute water, and the mining process produces loud sound, and that is causing this sound pollution even, and that is a noise pollution, which may lead to the hearing loss of the laborers who are there in the mining, who go into the tunnels and using the heavy machines, they drill, they dig out and find out where the minerals are there. So this process is hazardous. Other effects of mining if you take up, that is degradation of the land, which is very important resource. It causes degradation of the land, soil erosion, and also may lead to landslides and loss of forest cover, because large area of the land is selected where the forest is cleared, and then deep cuttings and digging in the earth crust is done, and sometimes if it is at the foothills and all, it badly affects the health of the mountain. And what happens is, when it heavily rains, there will be landsliding, a huge mass of the rubble and the land piece, it slips down from the mountain and causing the disaster. So that's called as landsliding even, is one of the bad effects of the mining. And let's take up some facts now. India is the world's largest consumer of gold, as I have told you, and gold has been in use here since the time of Rig Veda. Gold was accidentally discovered in California in 1848. That means before 1848, the Western world was not having any gold resource. They were rather importing it from India and other countries. Now in California also gold has been found. There is one place called Sondur in the Ballari district of our own Karnataka. There is a huge resource, deposits of the ore of manganese. So manganese and iron ore we are extracting from this place. Now that's about the mineral resources. Quickly let us go through the food resources also. Now as you see on the screen, a very healthy food, which is what we need, the vegetables, the fruits, the pulses, the cereals, all these are very, very essential for our good health and to maintain ourselves healthy. And to survive, we need food every day. And what is happening with the food resource, even let's take up. Let's define the food. We can define it as anything which gives us the energy and material to grow and increase our height and weight, survive, carry out all the physiological processes which are taking place in our body. For all those metabolic processes, for growth, development, reproduction, we need food. So therefore no day we are skipping it. Food is the thing which continuously we are in need of, and of course any living thing on this earth cannot survive without food. So let us take up the problems related with the food. There is one data given here. During 1960, that is 60s we call, 1961, 62, 60, 65, up to the decades 1960 to 70, there was surplus production of the food in India as well as in abroad in Western countries also, because there was a wave of scientific technology used in growing the good quality agriculture product by using the biotechnology, genetical engineering and all. Genetically modified plants were created, or we can say that by crossbreeding different varieties, they were able to change the genetic composition of the plant, make it much better, disease resistant, high yielding and all, and that is what called as the green revolution. That is the hybridization techniques which were used. That was the first part of the green revolution, and recently biotechnology also has helped in increasing the quality of the crop and the vegetables what we make use of. So this green revolution was also coupled with not only the good quality hybrid seeds, along with that so many modifications were done in the agriculture practices, and there was a surplus, means more than enough production of the agriculture product, and countries were able to, even India was able to export the food. But what happened in 1972 all over the world, and in USA and Canada in 1974 was really threatening, because once again the world was undergoing the situation of famine, hunger, malnutrition were the main problems. Let's see why this happened and where we were wrong, and how we have been able to overcome these problems. Let's see the causes of the problems, food problem. First one, population explosion. The human population all over the world now also increasing, and it was increasing during the 1960s and 70s also. So overpopulation or population explosion, what we call, that was one cause. The increase in the number of people per hectare area or per kilometer area if you take up, and similarly take up the increase in the production of the food in the agriculture field, it was not matching. The human population was increasing geometrically, and the food product was increasing arithmetically. So that is why there was a shortage of food. Then comes the conversion of agricultural land into non-agricultural. Definitely when the population is increasing, we need more and more land area to build the houses, construct the buildings, towers, expand the cities and villages. So definitely we are encroaching into the agricultural area, and large vast land which was earlier used for agriculture was converted into non-agricultural for construction purpose for the human dwellings. Then the third is the failure of monsoon. Natural reason, if you take up the failure of monsoon was not regular. And then the desertification and land degradation because of the human activities by deforestation. Desertation was there, the fertile soil, fertile land area was becoming barren, and that's why the food problem was experienced. And finally we see that even decreased fertility of soil due to use of chemicals. One part of the green revolution, if you take up, making use of the chemicals like fertilizers, then pesticides, weedicides, fungicides, these chemicals were more extensively used, and that has rendered the land unfit for the crop cultivation. So that is why we say that the soil fertility also declined. Now, modernization of agriculture, as I told you that during the green revolution some modernization was done, and what was it? And today also the agriculture has been much improved, making use of the modern techniques. Actually this is a transformation, a change from labor intensive to capital intensive type of the agriculture. Earlier it was depending upon how many laborers are employed in the agriculture field, and that used to give us how much product we can get or how better the plants can be grown and the agriculture product can be increased. But now it is how best you invest your capital, you put money into it, in buying the tractors, in buying some machines, harvesting machines, in buying the good quality seeds, hybrid variety seeds, and making use of the electricity for pumping the water from the bore wells or pumping the water from the reservoirs, use of electricity, and all these need a lot of money to be put in, and that's why we call it as a capital intensive it has become now. Now let's take up in what way the green revolution has given a opening to modernization of the agriculture. First comes here HYV seeds, that is hybrid variety seeds, and these seeds are produced by crossbreeding between the different plant varieties of the same species to produce a good quality seeds which have disease resistant quality as well as high yielding quality, and may also be resistant to environmental stress. So such seeds are produced scientifically, and these are being given or sold to the farmers. Then chemical fertilizers. Chemical fertilizers are used to improve the fertility of the soil. Both organic and inorganic fertilizers are used, like urea, potassium, then nitrates, phosphates. All these are being used to improve the mineral content of the soil and thereby increasing the productivity of the agriculture land. Then pesticides were used to kill the insects. Insect pests were one of the nuisance. They were destroying a lot of the agriculture crop. So therefore, controlling the pests was one of the major issue. So use of chemicals in the form of the pesticides was implemented, and of course these pesticides have not been used properly, and there are so many bad effects of it. We'll take it up in the next slides. So use of pesticides to see that the destruction by the pests to the crop is reduced. That's also modern method. And then the low interest loan was given to the farmers so that they can buy the modern machines, the tractors, seeds, the chemicals and all, to see that their agriculture product increases manifold and they will be more benefited. Then use of the tractors, harvesters and the threshers. All these are the machines which are the modern machines used in the agriculture field. So these are all the methods of modernizing the agriculture, and that has definitely led to the increase in the food production. Okay. Now let's take up the next slide. Ill effects of modern agriculture. Now we have seen what are the modernized way of the agriculture. Now let us see what are the ill effects of this modernization. First comes over here, extensive use of pesticides, herbicides, fungicides. Fungicides are one of the most poisonous chemicals, and these have killed even the useful microbes in the soil, which might be helpful in nitrification, denitrification, and then deamination process in making the soil fertile. So those even those microorganisms are killed. Insects are killed. Insects, not only those which are causing damage or harm to the food crop, but also those which are useful insects, or the insects which are food for other predator animals, those are also killed, so that the predators also will die out, as because they are not getting the food. Their prey species are being cleared of by using these chemicals. So total imbalancing the ecosystem. So this is how the chemicals have had a bad effect on the ecosystem and destroyed the food chains ever. Then through the food, the chemicals have entered human body, leading to diseases of nervous system, cancer, etc. What does it mean? How it gets into the food? As the plant roots absorb the minerals, along with that, these excess chemicals which you have put into the agriculture field, those are also taken up. Like for example DDT. It is said that even the mother's milk now contains tracer amount of or little amount of DDT now. So that much DDT was used around 60 to 70 years back, that it has incorporated into the vegetable, fruits, vegetables, into the seeds, and then in the food product which we are getting generation after generation, and we are eating these vegetables which are already having the deposits of DDT which are entering into our body and causing diseases. Similarly, fertilizers were used to increase the fertility of the soil, and these fertilizers mainly containing the nitrogen compounds and other nutrients, and these when washed by the rain to the nearby water bodies like lakes, ponds or rivers, there it will lead to algal bloom, that is increase in the growth of the algae on the surface of the water body. That may be the blue-green algae or chlorophyceae species or any other type of algae which completely cover the surface of the water body, and this leads to the death of the organisms which are there in the water body, as because the oxygen level goes down, many of the decaying and dying algae in the water will be decomposed by the bacteria, and a lot of oxygen which is there in the water is already consumed or utilized by the bacteria, and carbon dioxide increases, and as because the surface is covered by the algae, fresh air is not able to mix up with the water, and the diffusion of oxygen from the atmosphere is not taking place. So biological oxygen demand or biochemical oxygen demand, what we call, that increases in the water, and the aquatic organism starts dying out, and that kind of condition is called as the growth of algae or algal bloom on the surface of our body is called as eutrophication. Then comes the drinking water what we are having now. That is also not safe. It is contaminated with the nitrates washed from the agricultural fields and might have entered into the river water from where we get our drinking water. And if the drinking water contains nitrates, and this in our body leads to formation of the methamohemoglobin, and that is called as a condition methamonoglobinemia. Methamoglobinemia, that is, in the blood the hemoglobin gets reacted with the nitrates and it loses its ability to carry the oxygen. And in mainly children it is more effective. It has been seen that due to lack of oxygen in the body, their body turns blue. So blue baby syndrome it is called as. Then waterlogging is another problem. Waterlogging means water is not percolating, it is stagnant in the soil because the soil is more clay type soil, and due to the over irrigation and use of excessive chemicals and all, the soil has become more saline and the water is not percolating down, it is stagnant there, and the roots of the plant which are there in the soil, they will not be getting oxygen and they will die out, they decay, and the plants will also die out. So that's how the waterlogging is another problem which results into soil becoming unfit for cultivation. And how it happens, as I have told you, that the salts which are soluble in water, they rise by capillary rise method and come into the surface soil, topsoil, and which becomes more saline, salinization what is called as, and that is not good for the agriculture activity. The plants cannot be grown there. Then use of petrol and diesel in the machines like harvester, weed remover, tractors, pump sets, etc. It has also increased air pollution, because when we burn the petrol or diesel, we know that the pollutants are released into the atmosphere, and that causes the air pollution, and the direct effect will be on our health. So more harmful pesticides which are causing a lot of damage to our health are mainly organophosphates, 2,4-dichlorophenoxyestic acid, aldrin, chlordane, DDT, DDE, and DDD, endosulfan, etc. DDT, as we know, dichloro, diphenyl, trichloroethane. So these and related compounds, all these are very, very dangerous or harmful pesticides. The pity is that the Indian farmers, were unaware of how much quantity of this DDT has to be used in the agriculture field. So over spilling of the DDT onto the soil, that has caused the damage. Then similarly, if you look at the fertilizers, usually which contain the nitrates and phosphates and potassium, they are less harmful, and potassium is the one which is least harmful chemical or fertilizer. Okay, with this we'll conclude this session. In the next session we'll take up the energy resources.